Welcome to the NISM Masterclass. I am your host Sashi Krishnan. Our purpose at NISM is capacity building for the securities market ecosystem, and as part of that purpose, we sit down for a conversation with the gurus of the securities market to learn from their journey and their life experiences. I am sure that all of you will benefit greatly from the conversation that we are going to have today. My guest for the day is Sundararaman Ramamurthy, Sundar in short. Sundar is the MD and CEO of BSE Limited. Anyone who has even the faintest inkling of the financial ecosystem in this country will be familiar with the BSE or the Bombay Stock Exchange, because it's been sort of in existence for as long as everybody who lives in India remembers. And BSE was set up way back 140 years back, and it was the first, not only the first stock exchange in India, but I think it was the first stock exchange in Asia itself. Sundar, before he took over as the Managing Director and CEO of BSE, has spent 20 years in the National Stock Exchange and therefore comes with a vast amount of experience in this space. So welcome to this masterclass, Sundar, and thank you so much for sparing time to be with us. Okay, Sundar, you've been closely associated with exchanges for the last 25 years or so, both of the BSE and the NSE. And I think the last 25 years have seen some very dramatic transformations that have happened in the market infrastructure institutions. So you've been part of this journey where, what originally started off in the, 30 years back as an open outcry system now has transformed into a completely, electronic market. And in spite of a number of stock market scams, in spite of a number of, very big bear corrections, I remember days when the BSE Sensex fell from 21,000 to 8,000 in 2008, if I remember right. In spite of all those ups and downs and shocks to the system, the stock exchanges have maintained their integrity. So what insights can you share with us, and can you tell us how is it that for such a long period of time, and I think into the foreseeable future, this integrity will be maintained?
First of all, thank you very much for having me here, and it is a great pleasure and privilege for me. I have been working for the past 42 plus years now. In the 20 good years I have gone with NSE in its initial days till 2014. When I decided to join Bank of America, I was with them for around 8.25 years, and now I am with BSE. All along I have been in touch and working with and part of the securities markets in India. When I look at the entire history of securities market here, I look at it actually in three parts, three specific parts. Pre-1992,
right,
1992 and today.
Right.
That's how I look at it. Everywhere in the world, stock trading was born even before the terms stock brokers or stock exchanges were born.
Okay.
Brokers and exchange came later. Regulations came later, and regulator came the last.
Right.
That's how the evolution of stock exchanges have happened everywhere in the world. Same way in India, long before, a few people joined together, mainly from cotton trading into stock trading.
Right.
Those community came and they started trading in shares, and they started calling themselves as stockbrokers. The Native Stockbrokers Association was born, and BSE was born 150 years before. This is our 150th year.
150th year, yeah, okay.
It was recognized as the first stock exchange in the Republic India. And the type of regulation that we had, any related regulation, if you see, it was Securities Contract Regulation Act in 1956, it was formulated with certain specific paradigms in mind. But it was not regulating the market, it was regulating the securities contract, not the market and the market participants. 1992, till 1992, if you look at it, the market was open outcry.
Right.
As jocularly we all say, it was a very democratic market. What do we mean by that? by the brokers, for the brokers and of the brokers. They were brokers associations.
Right.
There were around 7,000 corporates in India at that point of time listed. The listing was scattered across multiple exchanges. There were 22 plus exchanges.
Right.
The trading hours were very limited because trading used to happen on the floor with outcry and hand signals.
Right.
The place where we are sitting, the next room,
Right.
is which was meant for the ring in those
The
days.
rotunda, yes.
Yes. Because of that, there used to be a lot of objections subsequently telling, I never placed this order with you, or this is not the price I meant, and therefore settlements cannot happen. We used to jocularly again call it as T plus anytime settlement if it happens.
Right.
That is the sentence we used to say. Right. What was the settlement methodology earlier? It is T plus anytime if at all it happens.
Correct.
Therefore, there is no concept of investor protection or anything called as investor protection in itself was in existence at that point of time to say so. There were no foreign participants, the number of products were restricted, it is all only equities, and this is the way it was. 1992 was a watershed year for multiple reasons. The country's economic situation and the market happenings prompting the regulatory requirement to be in place, necessitating the SEBI Act being passed. Actually, I look at 1992 as a starting point of 4 important revolutions, I will say.
For the securities market ecosystem?
No, in totality.
In totality, okay.
One is a telecom revolution.
Right.
The word telecom was not known before that.
Right.
The term telecom was born. Right. At that point of time in 1992, the word that we used to use was called as telephony.
Right.
Today, nobody uses that word. It was a telecom revolution's birth, technological evolution's birth, banking sector reforms, and securities market reform.
Right.
Every one of them are actually today, when you look at it, interlinked.
Yeah.
And they all have been responsible for the way in which the market has grown. Who would have thought in 1992 that sitting here, I can transfer money to you without knowing your bank account number, and if I am having, let us say, account with a bank A and you are having it account with bank B, even before bank A and B exchange the monies at RBI clearing, you would have gotten the credit and you could have even spent it across. Right. Who would have thought?
Right.
Who would have thought of a concept called Aadhaar?
Right.
Who would have thought of any facial recognition like DigiYatra?
Right.
Lot of things have become telecom and technology
driven, yeah.
Absolutely reform processes. From the handful of trade, today what is the number of trades that we do, number of orders that we process,
right.
what volumes we contribute to the total securities market. All starting point was 1992.
Right.
And from 1992 to till now, what has happened? SEBI Act, with a clear preamble which states to protect the interests of investor, with investors as a centerpiece, has evolved in a wonderful way, bringing in T plus anytime settlement, if at all it happens, to a fixed settlement, T plus 5, T plus 3, T plus 2 and T plus 1. Think of the certainty, the way in which the risk managements have happened, the way in which the market infrastructure has evolved, the way in which the education exercise has been taken up. You are one of the education institutions doing a great service to the humankind, particularly to the people in the securities market. What we have today, we have just 2 exchanges in the equities arena. There was of course another exchange, I will say limited number of exchanges. Right. There are around 6,000 corporates, but look at the liquidity. Right. Look at the number of market hours for which we are able to trade. Look at the finality of settlement. Look at the concept of novation, clearly investor protection and very good risk management, a world class setup, so many FPIs, millions of FPIs in your market today. From where we have gone where? What is the type of market capitalization we have today? We are one of the largest market cap companies, I think 6th or 7th in the list that we are. Right. We are one of the largest economies of the world in terms of our GDP growth. Right. Our GDP to market cap ratios are wonderful and good.
Right.
Our penetration into the hinterland is very high. The financialization of household savings is going up. It was all possible because of the watershed year 1992 SEBI Act and the proactive way in which SEBI has built the markets.
So if I, to sum up what you said, technology and the telecom revolution actually improved access to markets and made it so simple to access the markets, but equally importantly, it reduced transaction costs, right? And then the regulators, that is, both the Reserve Bank of India and the Securities Exchange Board of India, brought in so much of risk containment measures that it became a safer place for investors to sort of be in, and therefore you had this explosive growth that happened in this
Absolutely.
market. So coming back to the BSE, Sundar, you have a legacy to live up to because you're 150 years old, you just mentioned, right? And that BSE journey itself, sort of encapsulates all that has happened, including electronic trading, index, the introduction of a Sensex, which made benchmarking so very simpler in this country, the introduction of derivatives trading, the real-time settlement of trade. So in this journey, where do you think, which are those pivotal moments for the journey of BSE itself in this entire, exchange ecosystem?
Oh, it's a very good question that you are asking. From a bunch of brokers forming an organization, association called Native Share Brokers.
Under a banyan tree, as
Under
you
a
keep saying.
banyan tree, yeah. It's not very far away from this place.
Is
it's
that banyan tree
Horniman
still there, if I may ask?
There are some banyan trees, but I am sure it is not the same old banyan tree. So clearly from there, where we have travelled, what are the pivotal points? The pivotal point is, the first thing is BSE being registered as the first recognized stock exchange.
Right.
And BSE became a market leader of sorts amongst the 22 exchanges. That could have been the other pivotal point in the journey of this. Then came the concept of demutualization, which made the BSE Limited to be owned by not brokers, but by many people outside.
Right.
That brings in a lot of corporate governance requirements and changes and culture and thought process. The professional management took over the BSE management because of the demutualization. That's a major pivotal point in the journey. Next is, from an open outcry system, BSE embracing technology, though at a slower pace and slightly delayed compared to the other exchange.
Right.
Embracing technology and starting to provide online real-time access to client and an anonymous order book was another pivotal point. If we today look, the BSE's decision to go in for the T7 architecture of Deutsche Börse is another major pivotal point in its history. Multiple other regulatory changes had shaped up to BSE to be what it is. Interoperability and clearing corporation was one of them. So like that, many of these things have shaped up BSE, and today BSE is proud to have around 5,000 plus listed companies, a very good and vibrant mutual fund platform, a very good and vibrant derivatives platform, a good and representative cash market platform, and a nice established around 30 to 40% I can say of shareholding by various institutional investors, domestic, foreign and QIBs. I think these have been some of the pivotal points for BSE in its life journey.
So, if you look at the architecture of the Bombay stock, BSE and any stock exchange, so you have often described it to be 5 pillars on a very strong foundation supported by a very strong roof. And you have said that these 5 pillars are the investors, that is the people who invest into these markets, the products that you offer, which you just talked about, technology, which you have been repeatedly sort of telling us about, and the intermediaries, that is the brokers and a very strong ethical broking community, and then the other intermediaries who sort of are associated with the entire exchange ecosystem. And the foundation obviously being, you know, very strong corporate governance and compliance and regulation, and a lot of that came out of that demutualization which you were talking about, and then the roof being the risk containment processes that you have put in place. So I just wanted you to take us through some of these. You already, you know, touched upon some of this. So what would make sort of investors want to trade on a platform like the BSE? And you know, at one point of time, I suspect there used to be these what we used to call dabba markets, right, where people used to trade off the exchanges. But what has pushed so many people to come on to the exchange ecosystem to trade?
It's a very good question you are asking. The people here just not are the investors, it's also the employees of the exchange.
Right.
We generally say customer is the king. Actually, equal importance is the employees. While we may very clearly say yatha raja tatha praja,
Right.
but there should be praja, no, for the raja to be called as raja.
Correct, I know.
A person can call himself as a leader only when there are followers, right? If there are no followers, nobody can be a leader. So if there are no employees, no organization can run. So by people, I also mean the quality of employees.
Right.
Talent identification, creation, retention, grooming, taking them to the next level, making them passionate about the organization, creating a fiber of culture of an organization. Why it is important? People like me will come and go. Organization will continue. People will continue. The fabric of the organization is the culture, and if we strongly build it, we get what is called as sustainability. That is very important. People cannot trade if there is no product. What is a product? One which is liked by the market.
Right.
Any product which is not liked by the market is not a product at all. So what is the markets like? That will come from the intermediaries who give their voice. Typically, you know, if you go and ask somebody what do you want, they may or may not know what they want. But when you talk with them, you will identify what is the gap in the market. You fill a gap which is in existence, that is where you have a product. That product could be actually a product or it could be a service. A product differentiation and a service differentiation becomes possible with technology as the backbone. Today if you ask me, I don't think I am running a stock exchange, I am actually running a FinTech company.
Correct.
Because for everything that I do, technology is the backbone. There are other stakeholders, regulators as stakeholder, my own investors into the BSE shares are my stakeholders, all my committees, my corporate governance, my board, they are my stakeholders. All of them have to be working together as if it is an orchestra, you know. Somewhere somebody should know this is the time I have to play, this is the time I have to keep quiet. Right. That's both are important. So how you are able to do it all together, that is the role of the CEO. And what CEO has as the basement, the base should be strong enough to carry these pillars. That is corporate governance and regulatory compliance. Correct. And a regulatory framework. And the top of it, when you talk of risk management, the epitome of it will be your profit. When you do a risk management properly with the regulations at the bedrock with this, you will be able to really make it. As the top is the, and today risk management is nicely governed by the regulators, which takes care of many of the problems. It's a very scientific way of online real-time client level portfolio based upfront risk management.
Right.
Look at the number of adjectives that I have used. That is thanks to
SEBI. Too many, so you may have to sort of explain that a little bit.
Online is very simple, real time, it's not post.
Okay.
Online real time client level, it is not at a broker, at a client level the risk is measured.
Right.
Online real time client level, and it is portfolio based. Okay. If you are trading derivatives and stock together, both of them put together.
Right.
If you are trading derivatives, if you trade options and futures put together, both of them together.
Right.
In options, multiple contracts, if you trade together as a portfolio, online real time client level portfolio based, when will you pay this margin? Upfront.
Right. Okay.
So this is the type of risk management. See, risk is of two types for any investor. What he trades will he get? See, if I bought some X share at a particular price, I am ready to pay the money, will you give delivery? Right. If you don't give delivery, there is a risk for me. That is one type of risk. Similarly, if I want to give you the delivery of stock and if at a contracted price, will you pay me?
You pay me, right.
That risk is being taken away by the novation,
right.
And for novation, a credit risk is converted into a market risk using this
right.
online real-time client level portfolio based upfront margining system,
right.
Highly scientific. That risk is eradicated. But there is another risk, I may take a wrong decision.
Correct.
as an investor, what product I should not have traded or what contract I should not have entered into if I enter. It's a wrong decision of mine. There is a risk associated with it. Can I be safeguarded? Yes and no. What is yes part of it? I could be educated, and SEBI does a lot of emphasis, provide a lot of emphasis on that. Investor awareness creation and investor education, and through that investor protection.
Right.
In a constitutionally permitted country for people to have a free will to trade, prohibiting somebody to trade a product will be very difficult.
Right.
But it is very easy in a democratic setup for making people to understand that they should estimate the product suitability for themselves first before anybody else could establish and decide whether it is suited for them to trade or not. Human beings are typically driven by two factors. One is greed and another is fear.
Right.
Fear is whether I am missing out.
Right.
Right?
Which we are anyway seeing in some of the IPO oversubscriptions, etc.
So, fear of missing out making you to run towards a product without you realizing whether you understand it or not.
Right.
Second is greed.
Right.
It's like the story of a person carrying on her head a pot of curd, and she was thinking, if I sell this pot today, I will make 2 gold coins more, and if one day I make 2 gold coins, in a month I will make 60 gold coins, and in a year I will make so many gold coins, then I will buy a house and I will live like a queen, and then I will have servants and I will just kick them. Karke she kicked, she hit a stone and the curd pot fell down and broken, the 2 gold coins along with her total capital gone.
Correct. And in today's world, those gold coins are like bitcoins.
So, where does it come from? Greed.
Right.
So, these two elements, however much you may teach people to be very careful about it, if a person does not want to protect himself, any amount of protective cover given by you may fall short.
Right.
That does not mean you will not put in efforts to do investor education, you will not do efforts to do investor awareness creation. That is one of the key points which the regulators drive in this country.
Right.
So, this is how I always look at it.
Right.
In all this, what we have achieved, if you look at it, we have achieved democratization of access to information and to marketplace.
Right.
Whether you are rich or poor, a corporate information reaches you at the same time. There is no time disparity,
Right.
and that is without cost. In the exchange website, within specific stipulated timelines, a listed corporate gives all the sensitive information so that it is freely and equally available to all people.
Right.
Same way, rich or poor, people are able to access market.
Right.
Think of it, from a ring, the market went into the broker's office, and from there it went into the laptops of every investor, and from there today it is in his pocket, which is a mobile. Through mobile he is able to trade anywhere in the world he is sitting, he is able to access his market provided he is permitted to trade. That is what has been the journey.
So, Sundar, I have a couple of questions on all that you said right now. One is in terms of the product itself, right? We have a suite of products. In fact, the BSE itself has right from the cash market to the derivatives market to currency derivatives to commodity derivatives to a mutual fund platform. How do you see this product suite widening, and more importantly, how do you see deepening?
If you look at it, one way of broadening and deepening, it is just not product, it is also product plus participants put together.
Right.
Right? If you look at a product which is same in multiple places, it's like say a share A traded in NSE and share B traded in BSE.
Right.
That is then equivalent to 2 shops selling same Colgate paste.
Right.
Around your place there will be multiple shops.
Right.
But you have created a preference to go to a particular shop.
Correct.
It is the same Colgate paste.
Right.
Then why are you having a preference? You as a customer had a touch point, and in that touch point you had a specific customer experience.
Right.
And that customer experience is driving you to a customer stickiness.
Right.
There is no difference between selling FMCG and selling stock market products.
Right.
Because it is now no longer just Indian exchanges.
Right.
People have capability to access many countries,
Exactly.
many exchanges.
Right.
Right? People in India may go and set up a shop in Dubai as a Dubai entity and start trading multiple countries. So you are actually FMCG. So you have to cater to the need of people by a service differentiation. That is one way you deepen the market and broaden the market. The other is products which are niche for you. For example, Sensex is niche for me.
Correct.
BankX is niche for me.
Right.
Nifty is niche for somebody.
Right.
I can have more indices like that.
Right.
Or more ETFs like that.
Right.
Or I can coin some new products which are only available with me. That is one way of deepening and broadening. The most important point is, how do you make yourself attractive that different types of participants come to trade with you?
Okay.
It should have a good healthy retail mix, props with dealers,
Right.
HFTs,
Right.
foreign institutional investors, wrong only people, long short. How do you have people with multiple varied interest into the market with different time horizons to participate in unison? When you do a product and service differentiation, you will attract this, and that's when the market becomes deepened and broadened.
Right. Okay. Which brings me to another question that I had. And when we talk about, the stakeholders, the brokers are also a very important part of, the entire exchange ecosystem. And you also need to provide a set of services to those stockbrokers. It's not merely to the investors. So what is it that you do to ensure that you have more of these intermediaries participating in the exchange process?
So if you look at it, before that let me get into some philosophical statement.
Okay.
So today, Digiyatra has come.
Right.
You want to get into an airport. Earlier on, you would have patiently waited for 20 minutes.
Right.
And probably within 20 minutes, if you entered, wow,
Yeah.
it was not that bad today. That's what you would have thought.
Correct.
Now, after Digiyatra has come,
Right.
you go and just stand in front of a camera and you just put a paper on some place,
Right.
you are able to enter in.
Very often you even don't need to do that. It's
Absolutely.
just purely
Facial recognition.
Yes.
Would you like to go back to the 20 minutes? No. No longer your service standards will make you accept 20 minutes delay.
Correct.
So when an improvement has happened, the past is forgotten and new standards are set. This is human behavior, this is philosophy part of
Right.
it. Think of this. When you wanted to trade in earlier years, you will tell somebody who is known to you as a broker or sub-broker or some authorized agent or whatever it is.
Correct.
After many years, it will pass into a broker's place and the article and the clerk associated with him, the authorized person.
Right.
Who may trade for you or who may not trade for you in the exchange, who may tell you that day, who may not tell you that day, and at some time later, probably you may get that stock. Would you like to have even an iota of that experience now?
Obviously
No.
not. Yeah.
Why? Because you have enabled online real-time confirmation of an order under trade with a timestamp and a unique order number, so nobody can cheat you with a dabba.
Right.
Right? That's a great service. And earlier on, you wanted brokers to write Sauda book.
Right.
Today, anybody writes Sauda book? No. Why? Because the exchange gives at the online real time, the exchange is giving you tick by tick data.
Right.
You have all the orders that you have placed and all the trades executed. You want it in multiple forms in multiple places. You want it in the front end so that you can run an algo, possible. You want it for your mid office to set limits, done. You want it for your back office to manage the funds and securities, risk management, done. Another service.
Right.
Sitting in your computer when you are trading, can you have access to corporate information that is flowing down? Political information that is flowing down? Information that could be of sensitivity to the stock market? Done. It's already available. So all these are today taken for granted. So what is the next stage? You want more and more, dil mange more. What is that the next one will be asked for?
Exactly. And
So that is,
and what is that?
and that is where we just talked about What are the customer touch point? What is the ease with which many of these reports are being taken? If there are exceptions, what is the ease with which those exceptions get handled? What should be the duty of the stock exchange as a service provider to make the customer experience a customer delight and not a customer pain point?
Okay.
For that, how do you find what is the voice of the customer? With customer as the centerpiece, what are you going to do as a service organization to differentiate yourself and bring that stickiness? We started with this point, Colgate space is available in multiple shops around you, but every time you go only to one shop.
Right.
You probably, if you are asked to document a reason, you will not be able to.
Correct.
You will say, I prefer that, that's what it is, I like that shop. Why you like that shop? You may or may not be able to explain, but subconsciously, when you want to buy, your legs automatically go there. Why? That is the customer delight, that is the customer stickiness. That is where the stock exchange next step would be.
Okay. So, coming back to you were talking about the foundation and the fact that the governance becomes very important. You are, as an exchange, treated as a first level regulator, the primary regulator being the Securities and Exchange Board of India, and you can then frame regulations to control contracts and many of the intermediaries who operate in the system, etc., etc. So, how do you sort of live up to that responsibility? Because that's a very large responsibility to handle.
So, here actually, while it's a large responsibility, the credit goes in a big way to the regulators.
To the primary regulator.
Primary regulator. Why do we say that? See, we talk about prescriptive regulations and principle based regulations. We have adopted both and we orient more towards prescriptive in many areas, because in a developing economy, when you are having a catch up growth, it is better to be prescriptive and not to be very principle based only, leaving things to interpretation, and particularly when there are multiple entities involved.
Okay.
India is a unique market with too many listed companies, too many market intermediaries. If you look at from a first regulation principles, there are two major set of people whose primary regulation the stock exchanges are responsible for.
Okay.
One is the brokers.
Right.
And so, when you talk about brokers and all the paraphernalia associated with brokers, and second is listed corporates.
Right.
In both areas, if you look at it, a wonderful regulatory framework with sufficient number of guardrails have been prescribed, which the first line regulators like exchanges have to regularly check and take actions. So much so, violations and penalties are standardized.
Okay.
So, that is how we are able to perform our responsibilities with a sort of greater confidence than what we would have done if there had not been this type of regulatory framework available.
So, basically these surveillance measures that you have put in place to protect the investors' interests, either by looking at monitoring the brokers or monitoring the corporates, they tend to minimize risks for the investors. So, what are those surveillance methods that you use, if I may ask? I do know that you use things like price bands, call auctions, but you also have something called graded surveillance, you have something called additional surveillance. What are all these, if you could throw some light on that?
So, I will not get into too much of a jargon, but I will get into the principle behind it. When you talk of corporates, we do not call it as surveillance, we call it as compliance only.
Okay.
There is a set of regulations called as LODR, which I am sure you are aware of. The principle behind it is the corporate is required to work in a specific fashion, keep the market posted in a specific fashion, have some amount of setups like boards and committees who will meet within stipulated timelines as per the Companies Act and also whatever stipulations we have, and keep the regulators, that is the first line regulators, posted at such time interval as it is prescribed, so that the investors are aware what is the quality of scrip in which they are invested upon.
So, when this corporate informs the exchange of some particular corporate action that has taken, you need to then put it out to the investors. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So what has happened? On an immediate basis? Yeah. So what nicely today we have done is, a lot of automations have happened.
Right.
In specific formats, these information flow into the exchange, and simultaneously they can flow into public domain.
So it's a seamless flow through.
Yeah, it's a seamless way in which we are able to today provide these information to the marketplace. Okay. That is on the listed corporate side. On the broker side, there are concerns like whether somebody is front running, somebody is doing insider trading, somebody is doing a wash trade.
Right.
These are some of the concerns. Why? We do not want an investor to see a picture which is not actually factually correct.
Okay.
How somebody will see a picture which is factually incorrect? Because somebody else is portraying the picture as if it is something while it is not actually true.
Right.
That is misguiding the market to pecuniary advantage of a few people with a motivated interest.
Correct.
How do you ensure that it is taken away, the incentive to do that is vanished, so that the investor sees the correct picture?
Okay.
So what is the picture which is not correct that could be portrayed? A security is decided, the value of a security is decided by its price.
Right.
And price is a function of quantity, time, and the price at which somebody is quoting, buying or selling.
Right.
Right?
Right.
The traded price is a function of offer or bid price, time, and the quantity.
Right.
See, like in typically we say the three dimensions is Desha, Kala, and Vastu. That's what we talk about in philosophical terms.
Right.
Similarly, here it is price, it's time and quantity, which decides what the true picture is and what is not a true picture.
Correct.
If somebody is manipulating any one of them,
right,
and portrays a false picture,
right,
then suddenly there are spikes in any one of these elements. The surveillance measure of the exchanges identifies that.
Okay.
And these behaviors, which are not normal behaviors, which warrant further explanation, there could be a lot of false positives. For example, there is a genuine news in the market, let us assume, because of which a script is moving up suddenly and greater volumes are getting traded.
Right.
That's not a false picture.
Correct.
There has been a news which is in public domain, because of which the investors or the brokers are finding it worthwhile to trade it more at a higher price. That's not a false picture. But the algorithm will throw it as an alert.
Yeah.
So you have to process the alert. Now, there are certain situations where it's the first time it's happening.
So if I may interrupt you, do you allow the machine to take that decision as to how to process that alert, or is there a human in the loop?
No, machines only throw the alert. The human beings have to look at the alert.
So there will be a human in the loop.
Yeah, there has to be a human element into it.
Okay.
So that human element is just not restricted to the stock exchange. It also will be involving the regulators.
The primary regulator.
Yes, there are therefore weekly interactions with the regulator at a set up time with a set up agenda to discuss how this is happening.
Okay.
So it is not just left to the
machine to take that call.
Yes, not only that, it is not just left to opportunity to decide when you should take it up, when you should not take it up. Everything is structured. So that is one part of it. And if there are persistent situations where additional measures have to be taken, or already you have put some, see, that may include putting a script into trade for trade, making the script trade only for a limited time during one day in a week. Like that, there could be multiple conditionalities depending upon the situations that he managed.
And these are all prescribed.
These are all prescribed.
If this happens, then we will put it
Absolutely.
trade for trade.
Absolutely.
So there is no discretion on that.
Absolutely. Having said all that, see, whatever is old is not necessarily gold. Puranam ityeva na sadhu manyam. And secondly, what worked yesterday not necessarily will work tomorrow. Life is an evolving process. Our regulators, therefore, what they make is they make the regulations as an evolving regulation. And is it unilateral? It is not. It is a co-created process. So with due consultation with market participants, including stock exchanges who are first-line regulators, on a regular basis, every one of these are revisited to discard what is not required, to acquire something new, to modify whatever it is which can work better with modifications. So this open-mindedness with which There is a fine orchestra of regulator and the market participants participating in it is making our regulations stay alive and relevant.
Sundar, the question I wanted to ask you was that the regulator has now asked exchanges to mandate that stockbrokers alert investors.
How much of a difference it has made?
At the point of trade, about potential risks of trading. Similarly, in F&O, they are expected to alert them on the risks of trading the F&O market. How much of a difference has that made to the behavior of investors? Are they more cognizant of risks today and doing these trades, taking the risks into account?
See, it is like this. This is the way I look at it. There are certain reactions which are instantaneous, right? You take sodium hydroxide and add hydrochloric acid to it. The salt NaCl forming and H2O forming is instantaneous, but everything is not instant nodal. Some of them have a long standing effect. So, to measure that, it is not just a small time period we can look at and say yes, it has provided this much of resultant quantified. So, some of them therefore will be only the impression and perception we get.
Right.
From a perception perspective and inference perspective, I feel it makes a lot of difference. If you want somebody, there are two things. One is somebody may look at the warning and stop doing it.
Right.
And second is, consistently you are making somebody to think there is a warning that they are avoiding.
Right.
That in itself is a very good point. So, if we were to compare it and say cigarette smoking is injurious to health if it is written on a cigarette packet,
right.
Has it reduced smoking?
Right.
Will we ask that way? We will not. Why we will not? Because no, irrespective of whether you are able to measure a reduction in cigarette smoking or not, you warning cigarette smoking is injurious is a very important requirement.
Right.
Everybody, whether they look at the warning and take cognizance of it and therefore reduce trading or not, it is very imperative for us to tell you are trading this product, beware.
Right.
Savdhan.
Right.
That is the way in which we should look at it. And secondly, from a market behavior perspective, when repeatedly some information is given, there are always moments in our life we reflect on what we have heard and we change our behavior.
Okay.
And those behavioral changes are permanent and they are very distinct.
Correct.
Therefore, I feel that it is a very good thing
And
that
it
we
will
have
over course of time.
Absolutely.
There are a number of changes that SEBI has sort of proposed, and the market, the exchanges have also proposed in terms of how to make this entire exchange ecosystem more efficient. For example, we are talking about ASBA for the secondary market, or we are talking about T+1, or we are talking about interoperability between exchanges. We are talking about a shortened IPO listing cycle. So, can you take us through some of these proposed changes, and how do you see this sort of again, deepening and widening the market?
See, it is like this. Every problem has a solution. Every solution brings a new paradigm of problems.
Right.
When you are having lesser trading face to face, you did not have any anonymity. So, you did not have any credit risk. When you introduced online real time trading, is the risk totally eliminated? No. There is a client broker relationship, and there is a possibility of a use, misuse and abuse of the fiduciary capacity.
Right.
So, as a regulator whose DNA says that it is to protect the interest of the investor, has to plug every one of the loopholes.
Right.
If you look at the mortgaging of securities, the pledge of securities which we are put in place, pledge and repledge.
Right.
So that no customer needs to transfer his security to broker's demat in order to avail the facility of it as a margin. Right. Same way with the case of ASBA.
Okay.
So look at T+0, T+5 to T+3 to T+2 to T+1.
No, it is not T+5, no? It was T plus any time,
Yeah,
as you rightly
yeah. See, a contract when executed, if there is a time between the execution and settlement, the risk increases. Why? If it is not settled immediately, it becomes a stale price.
Right.
Every stale price gives rise to a credit risk
Right.
and a market risk.
Right.
So, the settlement when it is shorter, it reduces the risk for the market and to the participant.
Okay.
So, that is how it has progressively come from T plus anything to T plus 1.
Okay. So, shorter settlements are pose less of a risk to the investor.
Correct.
And ASBA on the secondary market gives them complete control of not only their securities but their money also.
Absolutely.
Right.
You think of it this way. Now, I am a common man, so I always think about in terms of common things that I see.
Right.
If you buy brinjal, you would like to get brinjal immediately, right?
Right.
If you are told today you buy brinjal at 34 rupees, I will give you delivery after a week, you may not require that brinjal.
Correct. Okay. Got it. Right.
So, you should get immediate delivery of what you want.
Right.
So, like that every one of the measures that are being taken, the interoperability between exchanges
Correct.
to avoid a concentration risk.
Correct.
If similar products are available in both the exchanges, in the event of one exchange having a problem,
Right.
people will be able to hedge the risk in another exchange.
Right.
So, it all is with the noble thought of risk reduction to the market.
Okay. So, taking this argument a little further, there is a lot of next gen technology that is now available. So, whether it is in the field of cyber security, whether it is in the field of cyber resilience, whether it is the use of AI for algo trading that you were talking earlier. So, technology is itself taking us to very, very new frontiers. So, where do you see, where do you see the next big push coming to the securities market ecosystem from technology?
See, there is one thing like these new jargons that come in place.
Correct.
That is one part of technology change.
Right.
There is another important technology change which regularly happens.
Right.
A few years before you would have been in Linux version 7.
Right.
Today is version 10.
Right.
You would have been in Python something. Today the version relevant is Python 4.
Right.
You might have been using some SQL libraries. Today there is a relevant something else.
Right.
You used to talk of C and C++. Today people talk of something called as Rust.
Right.
Java has made a lot of difference to the market. People used to have all their operating systems in Oracle. Today that is not necessarily the way. There are multiple other options. These are also evolutions.
Right.
And a version change in any operating system brings in better efficiencies and newer features and better security aspects. So, leave alone the AI and other part of it. Even in this area, an exchange has to continuously invest in upgrading itself.
Correct.
There will be terms like blockchain, AI, all will be machine learning. They all will be coming and they will be going. Some will stick, some will not stick. Anything that comes new, people like us, unbiased way, see how much it could be useful for us. In AI, when we talk today, we are talking of generative AIs and predictive AIs.
Right.
Both of them have their own places where they could be used. It's a question of evolution. It's a question of time when what will become more relevant. For exchanges, the immediate relevance also comes from the first type of technology changes and how we keep abreast with that. The second is, of course, not to be, we have to make yourself future proofed.
Right.
To future proof, change is the only reality.
Okay. Well, let me just also ask you, in terms of cyber security and cyber resilience, how much of your time do you spend on looking at that aspect of this, those kind of risks?
So, see, cyber security and cyber risk are very important topics today. All of us have put in place a special department for it, and it is mandatorily required that we should have a CISO.
Right.
We have multiple regulatory frameworks here, our own regulator and the...
but if I may interrupt you, it goes way beyond regulation because...
Absolutely, absolutely. So, let me put it this way, cyber risk and cyber security, as you rightly pointed out, is not a regulated regulatory type of a stuff.
Correct.
It is an individual's consciousness about this, and therefore an organization culture.
Right.
So, that is where people like us are involved in creating a consciousness of cyber security and culture of cyber security in our organization.
Right. And from an investor's perspective, how do you get the trust of an investor to say that, our platforms are safe from a, operating perspective?
I think that type of a trust is already in existence thanks to a lot of regulatory measures and the way in which the exchanges are evolved.
Okay.
What I am worried about is something else,
Okay.
a misplaced trust by an investor.
Okay.
Today, AI is capable of generating, using my face and as if I am talking,
Correct.
recommendations of stock.
I know. I think it's happened to you, to you also, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. So, I don't want somebody to misplace the trust and presume that Sundar has recommended stock A and stock B
Correct.
and not recommended stock C.
Right.
Sorry, people should use their intellectual thought process to decide where to place trust and where not to place trust. That is very important.
Right. I have one last question, Sundar, and that is, coming from having worked in the mutual fund industry for a very long time, you've put up this BSE Star platform, and it's basically acted as an aggregator. And I understand that a large part of what mutual fund distributors do now go through that platform, which is one of the reasons why we have seen this big explosion in, both SIPs and, people getting into the asset management business. So, how do you see this platform evolving? Because in spite of everything, we still have only 5 crore mutual fund investors.
There are 20 crore UCCs, that's what we talk
Right,
about, but how many of them are individuals? You are right.
Right.
So, I feel mutual fund is a very good investment avenue provided properly chosen. Why do I say that? There are schemes and schemes. Some are meant for sophisticated people. A thematic mutual fund will suit more a person who understands it. For a novice who starts with, say, we want to make even a 250 rupee fellow to come into the mutual fund.
Right.
You want to go to a fancy coffee shop and spend your 250 rupees, or you want to save it for your future. Here I am providing you an opportunity to save, is the noble thought with which we are coming. We are sort of taking care of that initial operational issues that could be there in it in a big way jointly together. That type of investor should get into a large cap, broad based, an index type of a mutual fund, so that their investment is safer. So, there are therefore no education required even in the mutual fund area. The mutual fund platform that we have, what we call as Star MF, has served a great purpose in aggregating and bringing on a single platform multiple distributors and financial aggregators in terms of brokers, mutual funds, RTAs and various other service providers, and in that sense I feel it is a great service to the Indian economy and Indian citizens.
So, can an investor transfer money directly through your Star platform, or he still needs to go to that mutual fund distributor?
He has to come through a distributor into the platform.
Right.
Direct schemes are available as well to trade on mutual fund platform. Right. Direct schemes are available.
Right.
If he wants to use the distributor to trade the general one or the direct one, both are permissible and possible for him.
And this could lead to it becoming much easier to transact in mutual funds or invest into mutual funds, and therefore you would see this platform as growing very significantly.
Absolutely. I think your point which you are making is very valid. This is making, once again, democratization of access to multiple mutual funds in a single platter. Just with a click of a mouse, I am able to navigate. That is what is bringing it the value.
Right. So, just to end, if I may ask you, you are very fond of quoting from the Puranas and Sanskrit, in terms of messages to your constituents. So, could you leave us with what you have talked about very recently? One or two of those episodes or anecdotes. It would be very interesting to end this conversation with that.
I talk so much, I am not sure whether I am remembering any one specific anecdote. But typically what I tell my employees is one thing which I will share with you.
Right.
Udyoginam Purusha Simham Upaiti Lakshmi.
Right.
Daivena deyamiti ka purushaha vadanti.
Okay.
Daivam nihatya kuru paurusham atma shaktya yatne krite yadina siddhyati kotra doshaha. This is a very profound verse. I'll just give you the meaning verbatim. Udyoginam Purusha Simham Upaiti Lakshmi. Purusha Simham means man lion. It is not gender specific.
Right.
Anybody who achieves is called as Purusha. There is not no Purusha and three different.
Right.
Lakshmi is wealth.
Right.
Wealth goes to whom? Udyoginam Purusha Simham. An industrious, hardworking man lion.
Right.
Who is called as a man lion? A person who is ready to face challenges and who is ready to work hard is a man lion. Wealth goes only to him.
Right.
Daivena deyamiti ka purushaha vadanti. Daiva means luck. All this hard work is bullshit. You know what? This fellow who is doing this, he used to study with me in my class. He used to come third rank and I used to come first rank. I am much more intelligent than him. It's all though he had pull and push and he had a luck, that's why he has come up.
Right.
Bullshit. Daivena deyamiti, who tells? The luck will give, luck only gives, who tells? Cowards they tell. Ka purushaha means cowards.
Right.
Vadanti, they tell. So what you should do? Daivam nihatya, kill the concept called luck. Kuru paurusham atma shaktya, with your own self-respect and self-effort, do become industrious.
Right.
Are you assuring me of success? Yes. Yatne krite yadina siddhyati. If you are assuring me of success, if I don't succeed even after putting all these things, kotra doshaha. Find out what is the root cause for your failure. Because if you put in efforts, you need to succeed and you will succeed.
Okay. So actually that's a
If you are not succeeding, what you should do? Do a root cause analysis.
Right.
This is what I tell my employees. Please always work hard. If you work hard with your brains put into it, it will not be making cow dung cakes.
Right.
A person who makes cow dung cakes also is working hard.
Right.
With no application of brain.
Right.
You don't be in that category. You do it with brain. You will 100% succeed in your life. Success is what you define and how you define it. And you will 100% be wealthy. Wealth is not your bank balance. Wealth is also your happiness. And you will remain a happy man. You will not be despising yourself that you had been lazy when you should be industrious.
Which is actually very true for any investor in this market also, because it is not luck that makes you money or creates wealth for yourself. It's only hard work, persistence and discipline, which is exactly what the message you leave for us at this end of this conversation. Thank you so much, Sundar, for spending
My pleasure.
the last hour with us.
Thank you so much.